I think there can be a little misconception about process improvement sometimes where it's like, oh, are we being audited? Oh, are we being told that we're doing something wrong? And really as a leader, I want to make sure that everyone feels valued. Like, hey, we're not, as you know, in process, we're not pointing fingers at people. We're looking at what's not working in the process. So when we're working on an internal process, maybe between two departments, uh, I really try to make sure that there isn't any finger pointing. It's like we're all here for the same goal. And I think that's what's helpful in nonprofit organizations is we're all working towards a larger mission. So it's easy for everyone to get on board with like, okay, we're actually here to do the same thing in general.
Hey everybody, I'm Elizabeth Swan.
And I'm Tracy O'Rourke, and we are from the Just in Time Cafe, and welcome to our podcast. So at the cafe, we wrestle with tough questions, we talk to groundbreakers, we discuss great books, and get insights from leaders and practitioners who are making a difference in the world.
We let you in on helpful apps, bring you the news, and challenge the status quo so you can build your problem-solving muscles.
So Elizabeth, what is on the cafe menu?
Oh, it's a good list today, Tracy. So our highlight is our interview with Kristle Bulleman, process manager for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And she lets us in on what it takes to make the impossible happen, like granting a wish to meet a mermaid. And honestly, who would not sign up for that? For hot apps, Tracy, you are bringing some firsthand experience on how to zhuzh up an event, especially when you want to add a little fanfare to picking winners, things like that. And for Q&A, we tackle a classic leadership challenge. How do you reward improvement teams in ways that truly motivate? Like what works? What falls flat? Tracy, we're about to mix metrics with magic. Are you ready?
Yes, let's do it. Up next is hot apps.
Tracy, we haven't reviewed an app in a while, and you busted this one out at a recent workshop. So tell us about how Wheel of Names works.
Yes, so I can't take credit for it because I was introduced to it by a team of process improvement people at Illumina during their Leanapalooza. And so they had me come in, I was the MC for the event, and they used this app, and I was like, what is that? So it was a wheel of names, and what they used it for was to raffle off some of our books. So we gave away some of the books during the event, and I saw it in action. So I decided to try it on my own book giveaway at the Lean Construction Institute conference this week. So it was a lot of fun.
Very cool. It's so simple, and I could see a ton of uses for it. So if you're interested, anyone interested in it, you can find an online version at Wheel of Names as one long word.com. And it has the tagline, random name picker. It's free, but it plays an ad in the left-hand corner, upper left-hand corner. And I noticed it was trying to get me to buy a book that I'd recently searched on. So it's a savvy little, ad rotator. And then you could spin randomly to select winners during workshops like they did with our book, the Problem Solvers Toolkit, second edition, at the Illumina's Process Palooza or Leanapalooza. You could have webinars, social media contests, or you could use it to increase participant engagement in workshops or classes. I was thinking you could spin the wheel to pick who answers next, right? Or presents, right? Or shares takeaways, it keeps everyone on their toes, right? And smiling. So what are you going to use it for next, Tracy?
Well, what's funny is during my workshop at the Lean Construction Institute, I actually asked them, I said, okay, people, I have some books that I'm going to give away. So I have a question for you. Do you want to actually work for the book? Do you want to answer a quiz question to get the book? Or do you want to just do a random raffle, like being passive and getting the book? And 2 people raised their hand for the quiz, and there were 60 people in the class, and they all laughed like, okay, so you just want to be passive. And everybody's like, yes.
Nice.
Okay. You asked for it. So I end up using it for that. And I can actually definitely see that I might do that in my class. So sometimes I feel like I have to come up with a question that people have to answer in order to get the book. And I think that works great. But now I have another option where I can keep it random if they've had a long day or if they look a little tired or maybe their brain is a little full. I could just, throw their names in the spreadsheet. It was really easy. I just took a list of names in Excel and copied and pasted it in, and it worked right away. So was definitely not a difficult thing. I thought I might have to manually type all the names in, and that would have been a barrier to flow.
Yeah, I mean, when I was first trying to figure out what this app was, and I looked on my phone first to see, is this in Apple Store? And it had a wheel of names, but it had a different tagline on it, and it looked like it was going to make me enter every single name into, a fill in the box, and then hit a plus sign to add another name. And I was like, well, that looks cumbersome as heck. So yours, or the one that's online, you could cut and paste a whole list of names. Like you said, you had 50 names, right, for yours?
Yeah.
So yeah, so this one, really simple, and I appreciated that. But I was thinking other uses you could, like, what if a team hits a milestone, right? You could spin for prizes. Like, are we getting a pizza party? What kind of perks we could do. So or you could randomize icebreakers, like different things to work with teams in the mornings before classes. And then I thought also kind of a cool one, because I've been doing a lot of work around, the praise paradox, is you could, use it to equalize praise or recognition moments, right? And addresses something I've run across as a downside to praise and recognition. A lot of people have told me if you leave it up to chance, you might see the same people giving or getting shout outs. And if you use a random name picker like this, you could spin the wheel to select who gets to give or receive recognition during a meeting, right? And if people know that ahead of time, they're going to be on their toes. Like, I got to be ready to give a shout out, right? Because that might be happening. So I don't know. I suspect I'll be using it, and I know you already are.
Yeah, I love that idea about it. I can also see using this in your personal situation, so for people who do gifts at, Christmas time and you have to pick names for Secret Santa or something like that. You could do it that way too, where it's a random name picker. You don't have to come up with numbers or, because sometimes families aren't paying attention anyways. They had too much turkey and too much tryptophan, and they're like, what am I supposed to do? And pick a number, what? But anyway, so you never know. You could do something like that too.
Right on, man. Bring it on.
Yeah, so thanks Andrea from Illumina and her team for sharing this with me and using it.
I'm Elizabeth Swan, and you're listening to the Just in Time Cafe podcast. In a short while, you get to hear our interview with Kristle Bulleman, the person who's trying to increase the number of wishes granted at Make-A-Wish America.
Up next is Q&A.
Today's question is, what kinds of reward and recognition efforts have you seen in regard to continuous improvement efforts, and to what extent have they worked? And it made me think right off the bat about, one thing that comes up a lot, which is, tangible rewards. Like, you get a gift card, you get, some kind of $5 Target gift card or something like that, some kind of prize. And that's easy, it's immediate reinforcement, like, hey, you guys made it to whatever phase you did, or you got your data back. There's excitement and all that. It might, encourage participation. I think the downside I've seen with stuff like this is that then, if you don't get a reward, it's like, hey, I just finished my charter. What, don't I get like a Dunkin' Donuts card? Like, what's going on? How come I don't get anything for this? So it's like the what's in it for me stuff that, it's going away from you. Well, you're trying to increase, this, or decrease cycle time, and now that's all about the prize. So, or it might create competition. I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing about that is the tangible rewards is, government. I do a lot of work in government and they don't have a budget for that, right? Unless it comes out of their own pocket. So, and I don't know, like in those situations, you don't have to spend money to recognize people. You really don't. You can get really creative. And I think some of the pieces that we're gonna talk about are some of the other options you can do.
Yeah, no, I think you're making a great point. And I always think back to Daniel Pink's book Drive, like what motivates us. And he's very clear that it isn't all about money or tangible
Mhm.
rewards. He always cites the example of people writing and creating Wikipedia for free. Uh, and there's other intrinsic rewards. So, things like public recognition, shout outs, spotlights and celebrations, right? So that
Mhm.
reinforces like, hey, you did a great thing. That's bringing notoriety to what you did. It's
Mhm.
good for morale. To be recognized, like, okay, people, this is important, so I'm doing it. And once again, that issue I mentioned, for Wheel of Names is what if it's not done consistently, right? What if one team gets accolades because their boss is good at that, and another team's manager, just sort of missed this as an opportunity to do a shout out and put a spotlight on the great work they did.
Mhm.
Also, I've seen people sometimes don't like to have a public call out, and it might make people uncomfortable and therefore not want to be on a team because they're like, oh my God, they're going to like talk about us and bring us up and make us talk at the next meeting. Like, I don't want to do that. So anyway, it's got some mixed results there. What else do
Yeah.
you think of in terms of,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would agree though on that. It's almost like this is one of the things that really will define a good leader is personalized recognition of your people. So, there's certain people, they don't want public attention. So to say that you're going to have them present to the executive staff as a reward might, scare the living bejesus out of somebody, right? And that doesn't feel like it. And they really don't want to do that. And so it's yes, frequent praise or recognition, but also recognizing that not everybody is going to feel comfortable. And then I have heard leaders ask, well, how do you want to be recognized? And most people don't feel comfortable answering that. They're like, they, it just feels like some people really appreciate a certain way, but they're not going to necessarily ask you to do it that way. It's sort of like, I don't know, it's almost like, well, if I have to ask, you really don't know. I don't know. So I think it's also interesting because I feel like some people will tell you, I don't need to be recognized. But in reality, when you do recognize them, they do appreciate it if it's done the right way.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. That, and
Mhm.
I've actually talked to people a lot about that. Like, how do people want to be recognized? And it's kind of personal. And to your point, they may not always know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So,
So, and I love the recognition around, now that we've interviewed Meg from The Moth, uh, I feel like storytelling and sharing stories about being successful with process improvement and giving people a platform to share the story
mm,
is just, again, maybe that works for some people. Maybe they really like it. And, creating a forum to have
yeah.
that happen. And, I just was having a conversation with someone this morning about there's just sometimes organizations have a lot happening that
Yeah.
isn't positive. And it's almost like the executives are brought in when, things are bad, things need attention, things need to be fixed, or things are really messed up.
Mm,
And they just don't hear about the positive things as much.
mm,
And this one group I'm working with, I mean, they love to hear the stories of the projects. They really do because it puts a highlight in their day. Like, well, at
mm.
least something good happened today.
Yeah.
And so it's that energizing piece that really can help people not only hear the story but see the results and really feel like, wow, people are making a difference here.
Yeah. No, I think you bring up a great point that we often are focused on all the challenges. And, hey, what about all the good stuff? So yeah, showcasing the wins is a great great way to go.
Mhm.
And then I don't know, I feel like I don't know, there's different, like what if it's like rewarded with a certification,
Mhm.
right? Rewarding people with, I think, badges are big now, right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
if you're, I mean, in some ways we do that, right? We reward, say it's a Greenbelt program, you go in there with your project,
Mhm.
you work your butt off to complete an improvement cycle. And one of your rewards is that you now have this title, right? You
Mhm.
are a green belt, or maybe you're a lean sensei,
Yeah.
or like you get these, and in many cases, a certificate of some kind,
Mhm.
right? Now
Mhm.
that can make a big,
Yeah.
that could be big for people.
So that reminds me of another thing that I've seen happen, and it tends to go really well. So I've done strategic planning events and or 5S's where they actually hand out certificates to the people and they have funny names for the people. Like the biggest chatterbox of the day is blah 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 blah, or the big idea guy or gal, is this, and here's why. And I actually created in my 5S course, I created 5S certificates for each of the, who was the best setter, the sorter, the shiner, the standardizer, and they're just funny, just really funny names. And, like organizing guru, and it's just funny, and people just like it because, and that's the things they hang on to, right? It makes them laugh, so they get some sort of recognition, maybe not necessarily just for the work they do, but participation,
Yeah,
engagement, adding humor or lightness to a complicated or difficult situation. So anyway, I mean, there's lots of things you can recognize people for and make light of, and I find that those have been very successful, those kinds of certificates too.
yeah. You're reminding me. So I did, for 15 years, for my mom's birthday, which is coming up this month, we did what we affectionately called Mardi Gras, as opposed to Mardi Gras, because we put manure on all of the gardens and the tree bases. But it was a big work party. You know about it. It was, friends and family coming to, repair my mom's deck and take the vines down and just do all kinds of work. And one of the things I did, we had a big party for the family, because they had all, the family does double time. I mean, I got my two brother-in-laws are contractors, carpenters, things like that. Another one can work on heating and cooling systems. Like, they're people with some real skills. So we wanted to acknowledge everybody. So I went and I bought a box of little mini Oscars, like the statuettes, little, gold Oscar people uh awards.
Statues. Uh-huh.
Yeah, statues. And then I put names, like the kitchen master or whoever, where everyone got names like you were just describing. And we had an awards ceremony. Everyone got up and they were given their award, and we did a little speech about what they'd done. And it was huge. It was really fun. And it was just like, I don't know. I think it helped everyone reflect on all the great stuff they did, because it was hard. I mean, it was like, you dedicated a day, and some people, it wasn't just a day, right? We started, you know, taking down all the wallpaper because we're going to paint a room. And then a week later, my husband is still over there painting, right? So these things were like Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras was a day, but it kept going. So anyway, I think it reinforced the connection between all of us. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I really
Okay.
appreciate
And all I have to say about that, Elizabeth, is for 15 years, you corralled people to get excited about something related to manure. Okay. I mean, there in itself is the result.
how did I do that? I don't even know. I look back and I am stunned that anyone showed up. But there was a party always associated with it, so that was part of it.
Uh-huh.
But
See.
anyway, I think we've covered a lot of the ways that you can reward and what does work. But it really is kind of about the group, the culture, and just being a little bit wary of making it about money and tangible things. I feel like I would definitely lean toward the intrinsic, the fun, the shout outs, the spotlights. Those feel like they're more motivating and I think culturally positive.
Yes, yes. And I think it's all an experiment, honestly. You know, like some people have certain preferences, like we talked about. And there's also the novelty, right? So sometimes, you know, after giving away, 16 rounds of 5S certificates, maybe we need to do something different. And, so it's always good to keep it novel as much as possible and, just continue to assess what's working and what's a creative way of doing that. And it doesn't have to be work. And most importantly, most of all, authenticity. Doing it with authenticity, really truly sharing it and not just feeling like you're going through the motions because people feel it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that can really rub people the wrong way.
I like it, Tracy. Don't be afraid to shake it up. So I'll just finish with there's always, a little fear of the rewards that you're reinforcing. They'll drive behavior, and it might not be the behavior you want. So be mindful.
I'm Tracy O'Rourke, and you're listening to the Just in Time Cafe podcast. We host these monthly, so you can go to www.jitcaf. Let me start over. www.jitcafe.com and go to our podcast page.
Coming up next is an interview with our featured guest, Kristle Bulleman. Tracy, why don't you let our listeners know a little bit about Kristle?
Absolutely would love to. First of all, she is a San Diego person just like me, and she's a certified PMP and Lean Six Sigma black belt with 7 years of combined experience in project management and process improvement. And she currently serves as a process manager at Make-A-Wish America, where she helps enhance operational efficiency and collaboration across key business areas. Kristle is passionate about using process improvement to create meaningful, lasting impact in organizations that make a difference in people's lives. And I am absolutely honored to have her at the cafe, and I know you are too. And I just really love hearing about how nonprofits are applying process improvement. And, because to me, it just means that they're getting closer and closer to achieving their mission. And in this case, it's granting wishes. And that is so magical.
Amen, Tracy. Welcome, Kristle.
Yes, welcome, Kristle, to our podcast. We are so excited to have you. So thank you for coming to the cafe to spend some time with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, so first of all, I know probably everybody knows about Make-A-Wish Foundation, but can you tell us a little background about, well, what they do and just give us a little statistics, like, I don't know, how many wishes have been granted or whatever you want to share about Make-A-Wish that maybe people don't know.
Absolutely. So the general mission of Make-A-Wish across the country and across the world is to grant the wish of every eligible child. So this means children with critical illnesses can receive a wish completely like free. That's the best part about this foundation. I think that's why a lot of people love us, is like there's no strings attached to a child who's going through medical treatments and things like that, to get a wish to go to Disney World, to meet a celebrity, to have a shopping spree or whatever their heart desires. And so that's the mission of the entire organization. And so there are 57 chapters across the United States, and then there's the Make-A-Wish America office. So it's a federated model. So we have the national office, and then the 57 chapters are all on the ground doing the work, granting the wishes in their local areas. And then our national office, which I'm a part of, is making sure that those chapters have what they need as far as strategy, tech, resources, things like that to be able to grant those wishes. So, and I think our goal for this last year was probably around 16,000 wishes, somewhere in that ballpark,
Wow.
somewhere between 16 and 17,000 wishes granted. And then at the national office, we have somewhere between 200 and 300 employees. And then across the nation, we have somewhere in the ballpark of 1,200 employees. Outside of the United States, we do have Make-A-Wish International, which has around 40 affiliates, which is comparable to our chapter. So we have affiliates in London, in Spain, like all around the world who are also granting wishes. So yeah, so that's a little bit about what we do.
That's fascinating. I realize I kind of assume I know what Make-A-Wish does, but just listening to you describe it in a boots on the ground way, it's like, oh, this is serious business.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a lot of processes. And that brings me to or to, kind of part of why we're talking today is how long has Make-A-Wish been doing process improvement? And, what have they been doing?
Yeah, so I've been at Make-A-Wish America for 3 years, and I know before even I got there, they were also doing process improvement. So it's been a while, which is great. I'm so glad that our organization values continuous improvement. So our process improvement team right now, there's three of us, and there's two of us black belts, and then our supervisor, a master black belt. And we're focused on improving the operational processes at the national headquarters for right now. Someday, I would love for us to expand out to doing process improvements to the chapters. But for right now, we're focusing on our process improvements across like all of our departments. I think our team has worked with just about every department at the national office, from finance to entertainment and sports relations to HR to donor relations, corporate alliances. Like, we've touched so many different departments. I'd say about 80% of our work is typically leading process improvement projects. And then the other 20% is us leading yellow belt trainings quarterly throughout the year. And so the great thing, this is one of the favorite parts, all three of us will say that we love doing yellow belt trainings because it's open to all the chapters, all the national staff. So that's a chance for us to get touch points with the folks at the chapters, who are amazing, by the way. They're the boots on the ground, and they are so like they know what they're doing. They know the processes firsthand. So it's such a great touch point for us to be leading yellow belt trainings and hearing what problems they're working on, and then giving them the tools that they can use to make those improvements in their respective areas. So yeah, if you ask any of the three of us on our team, we'll say that yellow belt trainings are by far one of our most favorite things to do.
Ah,
That's
so
awesome. So tell us a little bit, if you're okay with that. What kinds of projects are you working on at the Make-A-Wish Foundation? We would love to hear some.
Yeah, I'm trying to think which ones can I disclose. Like I said, we're working in the different business areas, so HR, entertainment, sports relations. We've worked in our legal department. I'll give an example from one of my projects that I also shared on Brian's podcast, which was uh, it's called Wish Assist, and I'll give you a little context. A Wish Assist is when there's a child, let's say in Florida, who wishes to go to, let's say Hawaii. They wish to go to Hawaii. So a Wish Assist is when Florida and Hawaii are talking to each other, and Hawaii is going to be the one receiving that child and their family and granting the wish on their side. So that's considered a Wish Assist. There's also another process called Celebrity Wish Assist. So that's when a child is going somewhere else. Like, let's say the child is going to Hawaii and they're going to meet The Rock. So there's that celebrity portion of it. So still, that receiving chapter is taking care of all those wish logistics. So the project I was working on was we needed to build an app in Salesforce that would allow both chapters to talk and share those logistics in a more efficient way, instead of calling like, hey, did you get that itinerary? Like, are the flights cool? Things like that. So I started this process improvement project because I knew we were going to build this app in Salesforce. And our leadership wanted to make sure that as much as possible, the waste and inefficiencies would be removed from that process before we built it into Salesforce.
Mm.
Right? Yeah, that rework, we were like, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to roll it out to 57 chapters and then find out later that they're struggling. Ooh, no, we did not want to do that. So actually, speaking of Hawaii, I made sure that we had those voices on our core team. I had someone from Hawaii and I had someone from San Diego because a large portion of the wishes that they grant are wish assists. So we had them on our core team, as well as our mission department, our entertainment and sports relations team. I had them on the core team, and we combed through these processes. We took out the parts, especially the parts that are like, why are we even doing this? Why do we have so many forms that are asking the same thing? So, um, so yeah, that was a phenomenal project. And when it finally rolled out a year later after it was built. And I talked to our CIO and he was just like, this was a great rollout. I mean, there's always going to be bumps and blips here and there, but it made me feel so good knowing that we had the right people at the table telling us, okay, we think this is going to work because we're the ones doing the work on the ground, and it rolled out and everyone was happy with it. And, it takes some time to learn the new system and stuff, but as far as I know, it has been a wonderful process improvement.
Nice.
Wow,
Uh,
that sounds great.
yeah, and also it's a really good example of what Tracy and I are constantly, you probably do it too, but the constant leap to automation as the
Mhm.
panacea. And we always say, yeah, but should you be automating exactly what it does now? Like, should you not look at how it's operating such that you get the waste out of there and not automate that? Like, so yeah, all the fields that don't need to be there, all of the things that are no longer relevant or never were. So that's a really nice one.
Thank you.
So just a curiosity, I read, I kind of like this description, that you had a supervisor that once told you that your superpower is making people feel valued. So how's that shaped the way you lead projects, right? And go through process improvement efforts at Make-A-Wish?
Yeah, that skill really does play into every project because I want to make sure that my core team feels seen, heard, and understood. I think there can be a little misconception about process improvement sometimes where it's like, oh, are we being audited? Oh, are we being told that we're doing something wrong? And really, as a leader, I want to make sure that everyone feels valued. Like, hey, we're not, as you know, in process, we're not pointing fingers at people. We're looking at what's not working in the process. So when we're working on an internal process, maybe between two departments, I really try to make sure that there isn't any finger pointing. It's like we're all here for the same goal. And I think that's what's helpful in nonprofit organizations is we're all working towards a larger mission. So it's easy for everyone to get on board with like, okay, we're actually here to do the same thing in general. But I mean, I've had some stakeholders, I've had some core team members who might have been a little hesitant at first. And so I took the time to have some one-on-one conversations with him and be like, hey, we're not criticizing you or anything like that. This is what we're actually doing. This is what a process improvement project looks like. And your voice is so crucial and so valuable. And when I come at it from that lens, that's when we get wonderful buy-in, we get collaboration, we get team members working together. And even once we did that, I saw this beautiful change of like them keeping themselves accountable. Like, hey team, I think we can do our part. We can do this X, Y, and Z in solutioning. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even have to say anything. So it's so important to me to make sure that every single core team member feels valued and that their voice matters in this in a process improvement project.
Yeah, and what you just described, it's almost like when you see another person and they realize, oh, they're seen, it's almost like their accountability does rise. Like, oh, I'm known and I'm seen, so what I do really matters. So it makes sense to me that then they would be raising their own accountability. So I like that.
Mhm.
It's a nice reflective.
Absolutely.
Mm.
There's so many things I could ask you. I want to hear about more of the projects, but I want to put a pressure on you to share all these projects that you shouldn't be talking about or
Um,
anything.
you know what I can say is that we have been coming up against some capacity projects, as in we have folks at their max capacity doing as much as they can. They have a lot on their plate and they're trying to do more. Um, so that's been the majority of the last couple projects that I've led. Um, but as an organization, I think our leaders are hearing that and they're in general taking efforts to make sure that people are actually like removing stuff off their plate. Like if we're going to add XYZ, we're going to take off, these ones so that you're not overwhelmed. And I know this is a common issue across nonprofits is like when you have limited resources, everyone's wearing multiple hats. We're all trying to pitch in and,
Mm.
and move the organization forward. So I'm sure this is a common problem in other organizations too. And I'm proud of our leadership for hearing our concerns about this and taking action to help create a better work-life balance so people aren't feeling underwater all the time. So
Mm.
that's something I am proud of. Like the internal Make-A-Wish America culture is one of like we care about our people and them being able to do the work that we all care about.
Um, no, that's great. That's tricky, and you're right, it's not just nonprofits, but I feel like it is the ultimate task of continuous improvement, right? I think our bud, you may have met Mike Osterling, but and I'm sure he got it from someone else, but creativity before cash. Like we can't throw cash at this. So that's where creativity comes in, and that's our job, right?
Yep.
Is to
Yep.
find ways. And I also appreciate because I often say people say I'm so overwhelmed. I'm like, okay, well, when someone comes to you with, hey, there's another thing to put on the list, you say, okay, well, what am I removing? Right? Because I can't create more time. So how do we
Yeah.
manage this? And I think that's a good habit to get into as well.
Yeah, and in a nonprofit where you have such caring, big-hearted people as the staff,
Mm,
they want to
mm.
do everything, but then they're like, "Oh, I don't have time to pick my kid up," and we're like, "No, no, no. Okay, and now we need to fix stuff." You know. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's almost like you've got to watch out for their burnout, like that people don't kind of just throw all in when they don't have all that to give.
yeah, they care so much and so deeply that it is like we have to keep each other balanced in that work-life balance. And to your point earlier, Elizabeth, like one of the examples that we bring up in our yellow belt training is we say we know that hiring more people is the solution that most people jump to. And we in our, as we're going through define and measure, we're like, okay, slow it down. There's a great Einstein quote. He says, like, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes on contemplating the problem and 5 minutes solving it. And so that's why we try to really bring our yellow belt students into that mindset of digging, doing the detective work, really falling in love with the problem before they jump to solutions.
Mm,
Because hiring may be the solution, it may be, it's very possible, but we also want to get our staff thinking creatively. Like you said, outside the box, how can we do more with the resources that we have?
yeah. Um, Tracy, do you have something?
Yeah, so I was just going to ask you. So I try to help nonprofits when I can. That is one of the things that I try to do to give back to my larger community. Besides the JIT Cafe podcast and our webinars and our free stuff in the glove box, I really try to identify nonprofits to help. And what I've noticed is that there has seemed to be a trend in the ability to use volunteers effectively, right? So there seems to
Mm-hmm.
be, oh, like the volunteers come in and we kind of help that we have them do this one task all the time, or we send them home early because we ran out of stuff that they could do. But I know there's always more stuff to do. But sometimes they don't feel comfortable, or it's not, they're like, well, the amount of time it would take me to explain to them what to do, and then, you know, I could just do it. So do you feel like there's an opportunity for leveraging volunteers better at Make-A-Wish as well? What are your thoughts around that?
Oh, I'm just thinking to myself, there's always opportunity for improvement everywhere. There's always opportunity. Um, the thing is, with 57 chapters in different areas all across the country, they're doing different things. There are some standard guidelines that are coming from national, but we have 57 chapters using 57 processes in whatever way works for them in their area. So it's hard to do too much standardizing because you want what works for that chapter. Like I said, there's always room for improvement. Like each chapter, like if they were open to it, I would love to have process improvement people there, like working with them. But I think they're doing the best that they can with what they have and what they've seen as best practices.
Mm.
Um, there's, yeah, there's always room for improvement. The good thing is, at least for me in my role, I am a volunteer as well as a staff member. So I actually started as a volunteer before I got this job. So I knew the wish granting process very intimately. I knew how it worked. And so when I had these conversations in some of these projects, I was like, whoa, whoa, wait a minute. I know this happens. I know this happens. I know we need this form. I know we need. So having that firsthand experience of volunteering has been so helpful in
Mm.
leading these process improvement projects.
It's like you came up through the ranks. Um, No, and it means, but to your point, you know the process intimately, and on you're reminding me of we both have Sally Toyster in common, or all three of us know Sally Toyster. So, and I know Sally from having done massive transformation of Starwood Hotels and Resorts, and then she continued to work at Marriott to be a problem-solving organization. But one thing that was such an advantage was there were, you know, at least back when it was Starwood, it was like 800 properties. So if you figured out a better way to check people in at, say, resort hotels, right, or airport hotels, because right, it's very different, right? And I think you're probably feeling that with the different chapters of Make-A-Wish. There's differences there, but then we could, you know, we call it innovation transfer. So I'm wondering, has there been any ability to have that innovation transfer across the different segments of Make-A-Wish? Like, have you been able to say, hey, this thing
Yeah.
works brilliantly with bringing in, say, volunteers in the entertainment industry, whatever, whatever. But are there,
That's a good question. Yeah. So it's more of our mission department and our chapter advancement department that communicates more directly with the chapters. And I do know that they have calls, they have connections where the chapters talk to each other and they share best practices and things like that, or they can ask each other questions like, hey, what are you guys doing for this scenario or this issue? So they are doing a knowledge share. So that's really helpful to know. And we have different categories of chapters. So we have 4 different categories depending on certain criteria. So the different categories can also connect with each other, knowing that they're dealing with the same kind of problems.
mm,
So I do know that those connections are happening. Again, my position and my role is more focused on the national office and the operational processes there. But I do think it's very helpful that the chapters are communicating with each other because as peers, they can really understand each other's problems. And we see that on our yellow belt trainings. When we break them out into breakout groups,
mm,
they're coming back with really good insights and like, wow, I'm not alone in this project, in this problem. And so
mm,
yeah, I love to see those connections happening.
nice.
Ah, good. Well, you know, obviously you guys have a wonderful vision. And so it's not just about dollars saved or
Mm,
anything like that. So what would you say are the biggest success metrics that matter to Make-A-Wish Foundation
mm,
for
nice.
process improvement?
Hmm, good question. Yeah, as we're becoming more data mature, we're looking for those metrics that really demonstrate the ROI of our projects. So we're getting to that. We're still working on it. We're still working on it because a lot of our projects have been qualitative. It's been a bit of a challenge to find those quantitative metrics that show our results, but we are getting there. This last capacity project, we were looking at like the different hours that team members were working, things like that. So we were, without giving too much, like we were talking about how can we scale, like when we need a resource for a certain project, how do we scale that? How can we predict that using the data that we have? We had built this Excel sheet that was like, okay, we put these plug and play things in for leaders where it's like, okay, we're expecting this amount of revenue, these partners. Okay, how many resource hours do we need based on that? That was one of our deliverables from a project. Um, so in general, I will say that time saved, super important. Dollar saved is a big thing actually for us, because the more of our donor dollars we can save, then the more wishes we can grant.
Yeah.
And that's really one of the cruxes of my team's role, is how can we make our dollars go farther so that we can grant more wishes.
Yeah. Which is
That's
your
a great one. Dollars go
ultimate metric.
farther. And then also probably faster wishes.
I mean, that would be great. That's something I would love
Mm.
for us to focus on more. And I know this is something the chapters themselves are working on too. So it's a common thing. It's a common concern that we all know about. We want to get those wishes granted faster. But it's always a balance between, how quickly the staff can work, how can they connect with the medical teams? It's
Mm.
so many factors go into the timing of a wish.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Mhm.
You've got you've got a lot of separate parties involved in making things happen, and not all the control over all the different parties. So
Exactly. Yeah, that's something we bring up in Yellow Belt too, is like, what can you do that's within your control to
mhm.
help like move things along that are like, if it gets passed on to someone like a family member that to like fill out forms, there's not a whole lot you can do as far as like making someone fill out forms on time or things like that. But what you can do is set them up for success, poka-yoke as much as possible, things like that. So yeah, we try to focus on what is within your control to work towards success.
Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
Yeah, make the form as simple as possible so you don't have to
Right?
do much writing.
Right?
Um, that's great.
What's the hardest wish to grant? I mean, does celebrity wishes get very complicated? I mean, is that one of the harder ones, or is that one of the easier ones?
It's hard to say because we have such a stellar entertainment and sports relations team who knows who to talk to, how to talk to the, handlers or wranglers. I can't remember the name.
I like that
We
wranglers.
have such great relationships with them though, because the Make-A-Wish brand is so like well known. It's so
Mm.
Yeah.
trusted that celebrities want to be involved. So I don't know if that's the hardest wish to grant. It's funny. Sometimes it can be the simple stuff. Like if a kiddo says, I wish to meet a unicorn, how are you gonna do that?
I got a
Tracy,
unicorn inflatable.
yeah, Tracy has costumes. Tracy has a closet, maybe more than one closet full of costumes. So don't count them out, Crystal. If something like that comes up, go to Tracy. I think she could handle it.
Well, and I bring this up because the staff did it. I saw it. They
Yeah.
found a unicorn and the
Aw.
child got to meet a unicorn. There was another one that I heard that was like, I wish to be a mermaid. And so when you get wishes like that, it's up to the volunteers. And this is why I say the volunteers get to do the fun stuff, is
Right.
they get to interact with the child and ask those questions, to try to dream up how they're going to make this come to reality. How are they going to make this come to fruition? In the example of the I wish to be a mermaid, I think the child they went to Hawaii, I think, and they gave her a tail, one of those mermaid tails, and they had an actress out there with a tail on too, and they got to swim in the water together and stuff like that. So
Wow.
yeah, it's not that the wishes are hard. It just really requires a lot of creativity. But when it comes from a place of love, like from the volunteers, like it's amazing what people come up with.
Mhm.
That's lovely. That's like such a
It
great image.
is.
Um,
Yeah.
no, it's beautiful. Now we've been peppering you with many, many questions, Kristle, and you've been lovely. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you wish our listeners to know?
Yeah,
And it might even be just how to get involved, right?
sure, yeah. I think the one thing I do want to say is because it's the most common misconception with Make-A-Wish is that a child does not have to be dying to get a wish. And this is huge because parents will be hesitant to get involved with us if they think that means the end. And that's absolutely not the case. We have wish kids who grow up, they pull through, and they come back and they tell us what their wish meant to them. They tell us how it impacted them. And now they're like a nurse or a doctor, and now they're, treating kids because they know what that was like. So
Mm.
it's not always the case, but it's a lot of time, it's it's uh it's just getting past that hesitancy that I guess I want folks to know is that it's having a wish is getting a moment of joy, like for the child, for the family. And that's really what we're trying to provide is when they're going through all these medical treatments, we want to give them a moment of relief, something to look forward to, because we're seeing some of our reports that are coming out, and even the reports internationally, are showing that having a wish improved their medical conditions. They had this hope. They had this memory, even once the wish is over, that they could go back to and have some kind of just joy that helps them get through these medical treatments. I actually granted a wish back in April. A kiddo wanted to go to the Bahamas on a Disney cruise. He knew that from day one, that's what he wanted. And when they all came back, the parents were messaging me saying, I have never seen him glowing like he was. Like he's very shy a lot of the time, but he got up on the Disney karaoke night and sang Frank Sinatra in front of everybody. And that kind of stuff, like a memory is something that can never be taken away from them. You know what I mean? Like they can go back to that at any point.
Yeah.
They're in a scary situation of a medical treatment. They can go back to that and remember how good they felt in that moment, you know?
Um, Frank Sinatra, I need to know this kid.
He did so good. They sent me a video. I was like, oh my gosh, so cute.
Awesome.
And
Um,
this is just more clarification for our audience. So I think that's a great clarification, Crystal. Thanks for sharing that because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people think, oh, it's their dying wish, but
Mhm.
you're saying it's not a dying wish. What is
No.
the requirement then? Is it a terminal? So what kind of to get a wish, what is the requirement?
so we do have specific criteria. I believe the age range is somewhere between 2 and 18.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And then it has to be a critical illness. And then our
Critical.
medical affairs team, um, they process the referrals to see if it qualifies or doesn't qualify. So there's certain criteria that have to be met.
Yeah.
Um, but a critical illness is kind of the broader term.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
That's
medical
helpful.
teams, yeah, people can work with their local chapter or ask their medical teams like, hey, do we qualify? And then they can refer to see if they do.
Mm,
Okay.
cool.
That's
Thank you.
super helpful. Really helpful.
And we'll
Yeah.
put links with the podcast for people who want to get involved because I know that they can both donate or be a volunteer, which
Yeah.
you've painted kind of a beautiful picture on. Like, who wouldn't want to be in on that meeting where you had to figure out how to get the kid to swim with a mermaid, and
Yeah.
and then what's the best way if people wanted to connect with you?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Happy to chat. And then if they're interested in donating or volunteering, getting involved with their local chapter,
Mm,
and if you go to the Make-A-Wish website, you can find the closest chapter to you and just reach out to that chapter and say, hey, I want to volunteer. and that's the best way to have these kind of cool experiences as a volunteer.
Yeah, I love it. So we'll put that link, and but for any of you just listening and can't be bothered with going actually to find the link, her name is Kristle, Kristle Bulleman, Bulleman. As someone who's got a name that's, not spelled the way anyone expects it to be spelled, I'm just giving you a little heads up.
Yes.
But I also just wanted to say thank you. What a delight. What a uplifting conversation about a beautiful
Aw.
thing.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you for having
how
me.
process improvement makes it more beautiful.
Yes, yes. I'm so glad we've had leaders that just really appreciate process improvement in our organization. That's been so helpful that we've had that kind of support. It means a lot. So
Mhm.
anyway, thank you both so much for having me. This has been a blast.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Kristle. If you're new to the podcast, be sure to catch last month's episode titled Storytelling as a Change Agent. We interviewed Peabody Award-winning author Meg Bowles and reviewed her phenomenally helpful book, How to Tell a Story. Storytelling is very underappreciated, and it's a very underappreciated way to bring about transformation and invite people into the change process.
And if you haven't picked up a copy of our latest book, the second edition of the Problem Solvers Toolkit, you are missing out. It's jam-packed with simple, powerful Lean Six Sigma tools to help you think clearly, collaborate better, and tackle tough improvement challenges. And it comes with 30% more bonus content than the original version. And with or without the book, you can check out the online Glove Box, your free companion hub filled with templates, guides, and quick hit activities from the book to turn your problem-solving life into the best road trip ever. And you can find the Glove Box at jitcafe.com/book. Everything you need, just in time. Stay tuned for all the news by joining our community at the Just in Time Cafe. Thanks for joining me and Tracy for yet another episode. You are our favorite thing about the Just in Time Cafe, and we look forward to being your lifelong learning partners.
Yes, join us next month and every month for your jolt of lean caffeine, and this time with some pumpkin latte spice.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not for Elisabeth.
Yeah, each to his own.